The sheepdog training, essentially, to use something we use in the SEALs called the Cooper color system, the color of white, which is basically ignorance about what's going on around you. And most sheep are in this white, if not all sheep are in white, in that they're just minding their own business. They really are unaware of what's going on. And then when the crisis happens, they're caught short and they're stuck and they're reliant upon a first responder or someone to help them out, another sheepdog to help them out. So we don't want to be in white. When we begin to train ourselves, we take responsibility to step up into our sheepdog archetype, our sheepdog energy, put on the sheepdog clothing. Then it's incumbent upon us to begin training. And that training, like I'm talking about, self-defense training, real self-defense training, where you're learning the skills of, street fighting, hand-to-hand combat, the ability to take care of a situation when a violent offender comes after you or your family. That's what the type I'm talking about, not necessarily, Taekwondo or something that's going to be, long-term wax-on, wax-off training. That's important too for different reasons. But the sheepdog has to take responsibility for the ability to move their body in a way that can take care of an attacker. That takes some training, okay? And there's training that's accessible to everybody watching this video, and it's important. And we're going to be launching our own 2-day self-defense training next year using these principles, so I encourage you to watch for that. It's going to be an important aspect of our sheepdog training here. So ultimately, we're talking about to move from white to the color yellow. It's about awareness. It's about developing awareness, and to be aware, you have to be confident and to know how to take care of yourself when things go south. So yellow is where the sheepdog lives. Yellow, the color yellow represents where you've trained yourself to constantly be scanning, but in a way that doesn't make you kind of a weirdo or an outcast, right? So it's almost like you have an internal radar that's scanning your environment. And this is sensitivity training, but it's also learning to know what to look for, what patterns are normal, what patterns are abnormal, noticing where to position yourself or being sensitive to where you position yourself when you're in public with either alone or with your family. For instance, if you go into a restaurant, you position yourself so that you can see the door and the expanse of the restaurant. That way you can be ready to respond if something happens. You also will assess the street and the scene, before you enter, and if something seems off, maybe you don't enter, you choose a different restaurant. I can't tell you how many situations I've avoided since learning these skills by just, having that sixth sense or that spidey sense go off and say, hey, I'm not going to go there. Or, you learn to trust your gut around where the potential dangers arise or are lying in wait for you. So those are the skills that are about developing kind of the yellow in the Cooper color system where you're avoiding danger. Now, this is really important for day-to-day lifetime resiliency because a large part of the situations we get ourselves into are self-inflicted, meaning we didn't need to be there in that situation or in that location, or we didn't respond quick enough when the danger signs were there, right? So people who saw the danger signs and realized that they were in the direct path of a fire, they got out and they didn't, weren't stubborn about it. They just took action immediately and no problem. And if you ignored it all and got caught up in it, then that's a problem. So Cooper yellow system says be aware, constantly scanning for danger, but not in a sense where you're sneaking around corners. You're carrying on with your life. Situation is normal, but it's not all screwed up, right? It's not snafus because situation is normal because you're scanning and you're able to avoid threats before they arise or get out in front of them, so to speak. That takes some training and that takes some courage. So it's part mental, part physical, and a lot action. The third level is orange. The third color is orange. This is when you identified a threat, and now so instead of scanning, it's like your radar has pinged a threat, and you're at the concert in Las Vegas, and all of a sudden you notice something's really off, right? Some people are going down. You hear some shots. Now you go from orange, really like scanning, something's going on, and then you're immediately escalated to red, which is action. So orange is prepare to act because I've gone from a non-specific scanning for threat to a very specific threat situation, and I'm able to orient myself to it. This is where you activate your OODA loop, where you observe what's happened and now orient to it because you don't know if you're in a good spot physically or geographically to handle the situation. In the case of a shooter situation, your immediate assessment when you go from yellow to orange is that there's a threat that could be a life-threatening situation for you and your family, and to find some cover or find some area to where you can observe the situation under the protective cover, or you find an immediate exit. Hopefully you're close to one. If you're not close to an exit, then you need to navigate to the exit. You'll also be assessing and observing what's happening with the others who happen to be around you. If there's a situation or an opportunity to render assistance, you will do that. Those types of things. So you observe, you orient yourself to the situation, you make a decision, and then you act on that decision, and this is done in a very, very quick real-time situation. So the OODA loop is activated. When it's activated like that, that means you're in the red zone now. Red is all action, 100%, getting through and around the situation and dominating it. So to summarize, you don't want to be in white anymore. White is ignorance, where you ignore reality, you ignore the signs, you ignore the information in the training. Now you're in yellow. The fact that you're listening to this video means you're either there or you should, you're really eager to get there, right? And yellow is a comfortable place to live, right? There's not a lot of anxiety, actually, because you're controlling the anxiety through your box breathing. You're always scanning. Everything feels good because you feel like you're in more control. But you also know that there's situations that you can't control, and that when those come, you're going to step up into your orange, and you're going to be really focused on, okay, what's this coming threat? Is it an individual threat, or is it an environmental threat? What is it? What is this threat? I assess the threat. And then there's going to be a point where I have to elevate to action, unless the threat turned out to be a false black swan or false flag. And then you can then slowly scale your way back to yellow, where you're scanning again, and go back to situation normal. But when you go to red, that's where these skills, like you have to be functionally fit as appropriate for your age and your situation in life. You have to be able to be mentally tough and razor sharp in those situations. So you got to be using the skills, like the big 4 skills of mental toughness, where you can maintain that mental clarity and that sharpness, and then activate your OODA loop and just figure out what's the task or action that's going to get you out of your situation or get your family out of that situation, and then also render aid and assistance to those maybe who are less qualified. So that's what it means to be sheepdog strong, and to travel the color system from yellow to red back to yellow again, using our big 4 skills in the OODA loop, and tapping into the energy of the sheepdog, a warrior, right? The warrior leader, someone who's willing to train themselves, to master the skills so that they can then serve others when the danger comes close. Hoo-yah. See you in 2018 or sooner. Divine out.